Social justice in education is a fundamental and vital aspect of the educational system. It recognizes that education is not just about academic achievement, but also about creating a fair, just, and inclusive society. Welcome to Teaching for Success. This is Rosa, your host. In this week's series, we will be focusing on the importance of social justice in education. What is social justice? Social justice is the manifestation of fairness in society. It is justice in relation to a fair balance in the distribution of wealth, resources, opportunities, and privileges in society. In the realm of education, social justice involves equitable distribution of educational resources, such as funding, facilities, quality teachers for all students, regardless of their socioeconomic status, background, location, abilities, or belief system. It is a justice that identifies and addresses systemic inequalities within and between educational institutions and works towards dismantling discriminatory policies and practices that perpetuate these inequalities. It supports the creation of classrooms and educational settings where diversity is valued, respected, and celebrated. This can help students feel a sense of belonging and encourage them to embrace their differences while learning from others. So, social justice in education seeks to promote equity and fairness in our educational system. It ensures that all students have the opportunity to learn and grow and reach their full potential. It's a vital concept for creating an equitable and inclusive society. And we definitely do not have an equitable and inclusive society today. So, in order for social justice to be promoted in education, we need to address the disparities. We need to identify them and acknowledge them. These are disparities in access to resources, scholastic materials, quality teachers, training, educational facilities. This ensures that students have a level playing field to reach their full potential. All students in the country, not just some students living in certain parts of the country. No, all students in all parts of the country. For example, rural schools tend not to have as many resources available to them to provide quality education for most students. Parents in these rural areas have lower socioeconomic status than those residing in the larger urban areas who have access to better jobs, higher salaries, more thriving businesses, more opportunities. Parents living in rural areas also tend not to be as highly educated as those living in larger cities or urban areas. So during COVID, I was really shocked and disappointed at the lack of concern by school administrators and directors for marginalized students who could not afford data or access devices to learn online. They were ready and willing to move ahead with no alternatives, leaving those students whose families face socioeconomic challenges, financial challenges, to fend for themselves, not realizing the negative impact that this would have long-term on society as a whole. I did have schools approaching Teaching for Success and asking for support with online training. But my first question to them was, do all your students have access to internet? Do all your students have access to devices? And if they don't, what are you going to do to help those students who don't have that technology to keep up with their learning at the same pace and level as those who have those devices or that technology? They all couldn't answer that question, so I said, that's your answer. I will not work with a school that does not practice social justice. I will not work with people who are ready and willing to leave children behind and just move forward with those who can afford. That is wrong, and that is what our society is accepting and happy to carry on without addressing social justice issues. Inclusive education promotes the inclusion of students from diverse backgrounds, including those with disabilities, different ethnic backgrounds, and varying socioeconomic statuses. It aims to create a learning environment where every student feels welcomed and valued. Do students with disabilities feel welcomed and valued in school? I don't mean verbally, but by having the right access to education. Simple things like ramps for wheelchairs, staff who are skilled in supporting students with disabilities like autism, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, or having staff who are trained in supporting students who have learning disabilities or speech impairments or language impairments. Is it just that these students have no voice? Is that social justice, that these students don't have a voice and no support in our education system? Should these students have the chance to study with others who do not have disabilities, or do we think they should be shoved into special schools, which are very expensive? Is funding provided? Are these parents supported to support their kids? Are these students given the opportunity to learn with and interact with their peers who don't have the same challenges as they do? Do these students have the right to be supported? Are accommodations put in place to support their learning, or are they expected to learn in the same way as students without same or similar challenges? Do all students have a right to quality education? If so, are we providing it, or are we discriminating against the marginalized students? If education is a powerful tool for challenging and overcoming systemic inequalities, only if these issues are addressed within the education system, resulting in education becoming a platform for empowering individuals to break this cycle of poverty and discrimination. It equips students with the skills and knowledge to challenge injustice and advocate for change, as these students are our future leaders. So if we are bringing up students who couldn't care less about how their other peers are having to deal with an education without support and resources, what kind of leaders are we going to have? Are they going to care? Students should be educated about issues of bias, discrimination, and prejudice. It encourages critical thinking and empathy, enabling them to recognize and challenge unfair practices in society rather than having an attitude of not caring. A socially just education system diversifies the curriculum to include different perspectives, different lived experiences, and voices. This ensures that students are exposed to a wide range of experiences and knowledge, fostering a more inclusive and equitable world view. It's crucial also to engage parents, communities, businesses, and different stakeholders in the community in the educational process. A socially just education system recognizes that it takes a collective effort of a whole community, the community that is surrounding the school, to create lasting change. Not just the government. Educational institutions ensure that students have access to support services such as counseling, mental health resources, and special education services for a lot of our marginalized students, which is a key component of social justice in education. And finally, it's essential for school administrators to regularly assess the progress and effectiveness of social justice initiatives in their school communities. You don't have one? Time to start one. Schools should be accountable for making improvements and closing achievement gaps. By promoting social justice in education, we can work towards a more equitable society where individuals are better equipped to challenge and overcome systemic inequalities. It is not only a moral imperative, but also essential for building an inclusive, equitable society. It also empowers individuals to challenge and overcome these systemic inequalities, ultimately contributing to a more just and prosperous future for all of us. Schools that are wealthy and are doing well should have it in them to want to support other schools. In my school, we share resources with less privileged schools because we know that there are some communities where parents are financially hard up and challenged and can't support their students in school. So schools that have also go above and beyond to try and share some of their resources. That's what our society should be like. This in turn contributes to a fairer and more inclusive world. Thank you for joining us in this episode. I hope you'll take time to reflect on whether your school policies are inclusive, whether an administrator, a teacher, a lecturer, a director, or a parent. And if not, what do you intend to do about it? Please contact us at www.teachingforsuccess.ca for more information on the professional development workshops and consultancy services we provide to make sure that your students are successful and achieving.